to talk about. So Rachel and Ray have done something pretty incredible at Northampton in weaving what they talk about as changemaker values in with the values of the university and the skills that employers are looking for, and have talked to employers about what they're interested in seeing, and they've done some pretty great things to bring that all together into a shared narrative. So this is Rachel and Ray from Northampton.
Thank you, and thanks to the previous speakers. Really inspirational stuff there, and I would agree with just about everything they've said, because when I took on the role that I do now, I was faced with all of those sorts of narratives and those sorts of problems. And the reason we decided to do this as a double header is employability through change making is not a one-person function or a one-centre function. It has to be across the whole institution. And one of the key things I learned very early on was to bring people into the fold to help me with this because of their expertise. And Rachel is one of the best learning tech designers we have at the university and has been with us on this journey. And we've got two of our representatives from the student union who've been really powerful and supportive partners in this. And we wouldn't have been able to have done that without them. So I just wanted to put some context, because it's going to be probably a bit different to what the rest of you in the room understand or work with. Northampton is bang in the middle of England, okay? If we hadn't upset a king back in 1265, we would be the second oldest university in the UK. Yeah? If we hadn't taken the wrong side in the English Civil War, we would still be the capital of England. Yeah? It's all gone slightly wrong. But from that point of view, we have a tradition of non-conformists. I met somebody, John Isham, in this exchange. His family comes from 4 miles up the road from where I come from, in fact 4 miles from my house, and came over here because that non-conformist side, the religious side, and there's a whole history in Northamptonshire, or where we are, of that challenge to everything. And that's at the university as well. You know, we have the highest cluster of social enterprises per head of population than anywhere else in England. We have the first worker cooperative set up 10 miles from my house in Europe. So from that perspective, we've got a long tradition. So being a changemaker university just made sense, but when I took over the role, there was some tensions there for me in that graduates from our university, 97% of the graduates from our universities are in employment or further study 6 months after leaving us, which is phenomenal. The real challenge was that only 65% of those are classed as graduate jobs. The rest are just jobs. They're not the sorts of jobs that you would expect to get into thousands of pounds worth of tuition debts for. They are jobs that you just have to take. And a high number of our students come from what we term back in the UK disadvantaged backgrounds. Single parents, BME communities, those underperforming low grades students who wouldn't get into university. And we take those sorts of students, and to me that sort of felt slightly wrong, in that we're bringing in all these students who wouldn't normally go to university, there's no history, we're providing that pathway. We bring them into our university, we get them a degree, and they get the same sort of job that they probably would have got anyway. It felt a bit of a false promise. So the challenge was always, how do we drive up graduate employability? How do we get people into positions where they can want to change the world that they come from? Not just move on from it, actually want to go back and do something about it. So to inspire them to change the world. Because we believe that that's what makes them different. So we did a lot of research on this, because I went back after the changemaker designation and none of my colleagues knew what the heck I was talking about, if I'm honest. So I got over 300 employers together over a period of time, and do you know what? They had no idea what I was talking about either. They don't, in the UK, get this language of change making, get this language of social innovation, get this language that is actually the stuff that we've talked about over the last 3 days. The students were engaging with it, but again, they weren't able to articulate it to get into those jobs and get employers on board. So we decided we had to sort of create a language that we could all understand. And what came out of that was that for employability through social innovation to be a real, or social innovation to influence employability, it wasn't just about curriculum. 70% of our courses have placements and internships in communities, but it hasn't made a difference in terms of graduate employment. So there had to be an extracurricular bit. But actually, it wasn't a one or other, it had to work together, they had to connect. It was about employability. those skills, values, attitudes, belief sets that you use to get you through your life, not just about getting a job. And you can read the rest on there. There's a real change in language. But the thing that the employers got hold of very quickly was we need to develop skills. I had law firms telling me they had just made a conscious decision, a policy, that they were no longer going to recruit graduates who've got a law degree. So why the heck do I spend the amount of money I do on running a careers in law firm for my law faculty? Because guess what? 90% you ain't going to get the good jobs. They want people who've got psychology degrees, they want people who come from liberal arts, because they want the law to be redefined, to innovate within the law, and to help move that forward. So, skills is a given. You go to university to get a degree, you've got skills. But what they were interested in was the values, attitudes, and the level of engagement. Students who can articulate how these experiences were impacting. I had employers saying, your graduates are great, Ray, but you know what? I get sick and tired of hearing about what they've done in the placement. Tell me about a time when you've showed leadership skills. Oh, in my placement, in my course I went on a placement and I had to lead the reorganisation of the filing cabinet. Or tell me about a time when you did a team working or problem solving. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we had an assignment on our programme where we had to problem solve as a team and we all got a B. So there was something about the value within some of that. We came up with Employability Plus. Now this was designed with our student union colleagues who were heavily involved in the design of this, academic colleagues, tech designers, employers were central to this, and for all of you Changemaker campuses, we rated your websites to see what was working, what wasn't working, what was great, what didn't. And we came up with Employability Plus as a co-curricular award. So for us in the UK, that means it sits in the extracurricular space, but it touches through the curriculum. We deliver it in strong partnership with the student union, and it allows every student to create their own pathway. We meet the student where they come to see us, and that is a valid position to start. And we learn about them. We have students who came to us as part of this design and said, look, I can't do all of this because I have caring responsibilities for a dying partner, and I've got that to worry about. Now you want to do a placement, and I've got my degree to do. We went, no, stop. And looked at their life story, what was in there, and actually sat with them and helped design how they would take that forward. And there are three key elements. It incentivises engagement, particularly for first-year students. They just want to go to the student union and get tanked up. Most of our students come to us at the end of their final year thinking, God, I've got to get a job. So the earlier we get them engaged, the better. We reward them for that engagement. We have an Air Miles card, or we give them loyalty points for all of the activities they do, and they can cash those in for breakfast at the student union, drinking vouchers, or we pay for them to go on training, pay for them to go on courses, pay for them to buy a new suit to go for that job interview, give them grants to have a go at their own social innovation project. And then we recognise that investment with an annual awards dinner, but also everything they do is reported on their transcript when they graduate as well, so they have a living record of everything that they've achieved.
Cool, thanks Ray. So I guess this kind of started, my involvement with this started about a year ago on the flight over to the exchange. We were talking about how we could kind of deliver this service, because I guess one of your targets really was you had to deliver employability to 14,000 students. You know, you can't do that with one-to-ones. You have to go about that in an entirely different way. So Ray and his team had already done a variety of kind of background work to set the context. One of the key things that they did was look at, basically we came up with these 10 employability skills. They were agreed with students, they were agreed with staff, and they were also agreed with employers. So we kind of began to frame it in what looked like an academic programme. We had these skills, broke each one of them down into, in effect, an employability outcome. And as you just have a look at some of them, they're just there to have a look at. So we had the language of higher education and the kind of higher education programme around employability, but we needed to do something with it, because your skills come from not just being, doing a placement or your degree, but they come from you, they come from volunteering, they come from the other things that you engage with. But it's you, because it's what you take when you go for a job, and you get that from everywhere. You can't compartmentalize any of that. It's about you. So this is about how it works. So where do I want to start? Recognising self-assessment. Okay, so it was about looking at where students come into this process really. What do they bring to the table when they start? You know, they might have already come to us by the time they reach university, particularly the mature students, with a whole set of skills, beliefs, backgrounds, abilities, and knowledge. We need to capture that, but we also need to build on that. And so the starting point for everybody is going to be different. So it's about recognising where we come at that from. Then they need to plan what they're going to do, put that into action, reflect on it, achieve that kind of recognition for what they've done, and build on it. So we end up with this kind of cycle. And what that actually looks like is this. So we have an academic program redesign workshop, if you like, that's called Cairo. Don't worry about what it's called, but it's basically a course design retreat. So 2 days away, and you look at your course, and basically if we're going to describe it from a learning kind of point of view, it would be about constructive alignment. Okay, so it's making sure that you know what you want your students to do by the time they leave, working backwards from that, how do they know what they need to be able to do, and therefore how are they going to learn what they need to know in order to do that, and therefore what do you need to teach them. Okay, so it's a backwards design methodology. And we started to begin to storyboard this and put all these things in place. So we ended up with our essay assessment just because we ended up using the terminology for HE. So we talked about what that assessment, quote unquote, would look like. We had the learning outcomes already. And then we began to look at what we could do, how we could deliver that. Because you can't do, as I said earlier, you can't do a one-to-one for 14,000 students on how to write a CV. And to be fair, that stuff's out there. You know, anybody can find it. Content is free these days. It's there. It's already, you know, it's on the web. So we had to come up with an online blended approach that took advantage of or used what we were already doing in terms of how we taught our programs, blended learning, making use of the internet. But we tied that in with workshops, with our career staff, with our volunteering staff, and with people on May's team. So, yeah, there we go. So as we said earlier, they would do their self-assessment. This was basically looking through all those skills that we listed, the 10 skills, the 5 attributes under each, 50 things. They had to basically assess whether they were good at them, green, not so good, red. Amber, you know, didn't have that skill at all, red. And provide evidence for that. So on what basis were they making that judgment? Because you can't just, you know, we couldn't tell them that. We couldn't tell them what to include because they're going to have to go to employers and say, well, I can do this. You know, if they're lying about it, that's the, you know, the employer's going to find that out, but we can't assess that. We can only help them to improve on what they've done and think about how they frame it. So they do that. They then do a scaffolded online activity. That basically is their preparatory work. So before they could come to any kind of face-to-face session with the team, they had to have done something. So whether it was drafting their own CV, okay, they had to come with something done so that they could build on that. They would get peer feedback. They would upload it, you know, to the BLE. They could get some feedback from their peers. So before they get to the actual appointment or to the workshop, they've done some work, they've got some input, they've improved it. And then they could go to the workshop, as we say, and then they had to evidence what they've done. They got the points, QU. So they got what we call these employability plus points for engaging, for participating. And then this feeds into what is section 6.1 of the HERE, which is our higher education achievement record. But key for us was the fact that from a team point of view, we started off with 3 teams. Ray had a careers team, a volunteering team, and an HE schools engagement team. So about getting our schools and our kids in. And we needed to unite that. And when we started to storyboard, it ended up being about, well, this is what I can offer, these are the workshops we can offer as careers, this is how we can help with volunteering. And thinking back to what Phil Drayton said this morning, they were reinforcing what they already did. Okay, it was, well, we can offer this, we can offer this. And fundamentally for us, that changed when we said, it's not really about what you can offer, it's about what our students need. And they will all need different things from you at different points. You know, people are going to come in, as we said earlier, with all these different skills and abilities. And so you can't just give them one thing. They have to be able to tailor it, they have to be able to focus on the skills that they need to develop at a time that they need to develop them. Whether they get those skills from volunteering, whether they get them from paid employment, whether they get them from just life, from being at home, from caring for their sick relatives. But it's about uniting all of that because, as we said earlier, the employability skills that you go to a job with are you, they're who you are, they're who you present yourself to be, and they come from all sorts of different things. So we kind of realised you couldn't split curricular, co-curricular together. I've got some numbers for you, but it might be easier if you do it.
Yeah, the so what question I got asked the other day, so what? In 2013, in our autumn term, we supported just under 5% of our student body with anything to do with socialisation. In the autumn term 2014, that's gone up to 8,450. And that's 8,450 students engaging with social innovation as part of their employability on a weekly basis. We've had over 2,500 go through and start accumulating points and start cashing them in. But there's been questions for me, the so what continues. Okay, it's 8,500, but is that real? Is that making a difference? Is that impactful? Are they actually getting out of that, anything out of that? But in terms of the engagement side, in terms of seeing students developing stories that they can actually now articulate, we've got that evidence and we're looking to research further into the next phase. So thank you all very much for listening.